Hey there, and welcome. I'm Anna Hartman, and this is Unreal Results, a podcast where I help you get better outcomes and gain the confidence that you can help anyone, even the most complex cases. Join me as I teach about the influence of the visceral organs and the nervous system on movement, pain, and injuries, all while shifting the paradigm of what whole body assessment and treatment really looks like. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Unreal Results podcast. It's been a little bit again. March is gone by crazy. I knew it would happen. If you're on my email list, well, I hope you're on my email list. If you're not on my email list, what are you doing? Get on my email list. There's a link in the show notes. Yes, if you're on my email list, perhaps you've seen March has been busy. It started out with a Con Ed course up in LA for me, like taking it. And then the following weekend, I taught a course in Eugene, Oregon. And then the third week, I was home, but my group of Navy SEAL candidates that are going through BUDS, my now very large group of men doing that. About 9 of them are going through first phase, which is the phase that Hell Week is a part of. And me not being on the weekends, around on the weekends was challenging. And so my free weekend was spent taking care of all of them. And then also during that time, I went home to help, home being my sister's home in Northern California, to help her out with my niece. She was having some health issues, and I felt like I needed to be there to just help as another adult to care for everyone, and then also help as a manual therapist that can treat the body and make people feel better. And so I worked on her, and that was just an unplanned trip at a busy time. And then I also did the Missing Link in Orthopedic Rehab 2-part training series last week, which was awesome. 170 people joined that. And then this past weekend, I had 12 of the 16 people in the Revitalized Mentorship program in San Diego, specifically in Coronado, for a weekend retreat where I hosted them to have a revitalizing weekend to take care of themselves, create and we'll continue to build our little mentorship community, and to spoil them, right? Like that was also the purpose of having it here in Coronado, was not just because it was close to my house, which that was nice, but to like give them a little like vacation feeling, like a vacation life. And, I'm lucky to live where people vacation. And if you follow me on social media, you see it in my stories all the time, my daily beach walk. So I got to share that with them, and I got to share my favorite yoga teacher, Missy DiDonato. She's a yoga teacher at Yoga One here in San Diego. She taught an amazing 90-minute restorative class to them on Saturday morning. And then Saturday afternoon, we did clinical stuff after our lunch in the sunshine, overlooking the Coronado Bridge and the bay. And then Saturday night, I treated them to a dinner at Miguel's Cocina, which is a really popular restaurant here. And it was amazing. The server there, shout out, don't remember her name, but she was awesome. Like almost 20 people, and like you would have thought it was like a table of 5. It was excellent service and delicious food. And then after that, we went over to the Del for a beach fire, the Hotel Del Coronado, which was very fun with s'mores, and just it was a beautiful night. Oh, and Friday night for like 6 of them who were in town early enough, we did drinks on the sun deck, also at the Hotel Del Coronado. Got a great sunset overlooking the beach and the ocean, and then on Sunday, Jill Miller drove down from the LA area and treated us to a Body by Breath masterclass with some little extra pieces for us. And we got to experience the deliciousness of a double gorgeous ball experience, um, which was amazing. And then we did lunch again together. And then in the afternoon, we wrapped up with a little business talk about messaging and just, yeah, growing as business owners and growing personal development as business professionals. And the whole weekend really was about revitalization and clarity. And really, that's kind of like the theme of the whole year as well with them. And that's kind of too like the theme of my professional education for everyone. And I share that a lot when people go through my education, like it is a professional and personal development journey, and one that requires you to take better care of yourself, and shows you how important that is to be a good clinician, and also not only important to be a good clinician, but how important it is to feel fulfilled and successful in what you do. And so it was just really wonderful. And it was really cool too, from the timing of it, having taught the 170 people in the Missing Link course, and then, have it bookended on with the Revitalized mentorship crew, because like from my education, like ascension model, basically the Missing Link is like an introductory class. The Missing Link is usually people's first experience learning the whole organism paradigm and learning about the locator test assessment protocol. Like that's where we start. And then the people who are in the mentorship program or have already gone through the mentorship program and are doing it again, a lot of them are certified LTAP providers. A lot of them have been learning from me for years, or at least 8 months. And it's just really cool to see them on their journey. And actually, so thinking about that, and interacting with them this weekend also is sort of what inspires the theme of this podcast episode, as well as just the teaching, all those different levels, right? And all those different modes. And so this comes up too is like, I will 100% admit, when I first started educating through Movement Rev, I was very hesitant to do online education because I didn't like online education. As the student, I wasn't a fan. And, this was pre-pandemic. So this was pre it being like a big thing. And I was very resistant to it. I was more of an in-person learner. Like, even when I was at Athletes Performance Exos and an employee, I would still... not only, we were spoiled. We had a lot of education come to us in person, but then, and we brought in people for education, but then I would still spend my own money and fly to different places to take a bunch of different courses and stuff. So I've always been very much a fan of in-person learning. And the interesting thing, though, between teaching the same thing or same concepts over and over again, and also teaching it in an online space as well as an in-person space, it has provided me a lot of repetition. And with repetition comes a lot of clarity. And so again, like this, this is very, very bright. I'm going to move that photo real quick. But that was the point of this podcast today, is just to talk a little bit about that, because it came up while teaching in the Revitalized mentorship retreat weekend this weekend too, is this need for clarity. So this need for clarity. So one of the big things, one of the core beliefs in the LTAP Level 1 course, which, by the way, when this podcast will drop, will be 1 day left, 2 days left of the enrollment window for the spring 2026 cohort of the online LTAP Level 1 course. So if you've been wanting to join, now's the time. I only offer this course live online 2 times a year. And so if you don't jump in now, you got to wait till the fall. So it'll be linked in the show notes. I'll make sure Joe puts it in there. There's usually always a link to the LTAP in the show notes, but just in case, the online one, doors are open now. So anyways, one of the core beliefs of that course, and really of this whole organism paradigm, is that especially the majority of the people who learn from me, I'd say, are seasoned professionals, people who've been in the game for a while. And a while might be 5 years, but a while is typically more like closer to 10 or more years practicing as a provider. And when you've got that many years of experience, you've gotten a lot of reps. You've gotten a lot of your hands on people. You've probably taken quite a bit of education, so you have a lot of treatment tools and knowledge in your head. And so one of the core beliefs is that the treatment tool or technique that you use actually doesn't matter as much as using an assessment to know where the body is directing you. And when you know where the body's directing you, you can use any treatment tool you want and you're going to get great results, because it's actually more important that you're at the spot where the body is protecting and where the body's innate intelligence knows that there is a driving piece to whatever is causing their injury or pain or dysfunction. And so with that theme, along with now the experience of teaching so many professionals a completely new paradigm, a completely new assessment, I've realized over and over again, less is more. And it actually really mirrors even my treatment style with my athletes, that less is more. And I've talked about this on previous podcast episodes, talking about like the sniper technique of precision in our assessment, so we can like line up our shot and like just have one really specific treatment technique in the area the body wants, and then like that is the thing that makes all the difference. This is oftentimes when you get comments from your patients that you're like magic. Like, this is that in action, that it doesn't take a lot of effort, a lot of force, a lot of techniques, a lot of sessions to get the result. And as I've seen this in my own practice, and as I've seen this teaching people, that like actually the more I take out of a course and the more I can like narrow it down and get more clear, the better they learn it, the better that they can practically apply it, and the better the results. And so that is even like the theme for a lot of what I do. It is a funny like full circle moment too for myself, because I used to not teach like that. I'm also like, I don't learn, like I clearly didn't honor that in the majority of my career, because I still love to learn a million things. But I just have a really good filter now of assimilating it all together and not letting all those things distract me. And that is a skill in itself, and one I feel like the more I lean into helping people through, and as much as it sometimes hangs my own brain to repeat myself over and over and over again, it is like the best way to learn. The best way to be successful at any endeavor really is repetition. Repetition and review of your performance is what creates good results, period. And so it's like, number one, working with professional athletes, elite performers, I see that. that is how they operate, is repetition. And it's been really interesting too, as I enter this like Navy SEAL buds space, is because like the way they prepare these guys to learn a new skill is exactly that: repetition, over and over, learning, repeating, reviewing what you messed up on, repeating it again, getting better. And like that is the process. And my athletes are like that too. Like, prepare, perform, review performance, be nitpicky about it, do better next time, repeat, rinse and repeat sort of thing. And I've seen that too in my teaching. And so how it was highlighted is with this mentorship retreat, the focus of the weekend was not clinical at all, but of course, there's still clinicians that are wanting to learn and get better in their practice. And I can't just, you can't just restorative yoga your way to be better. It still, takes that repetition and that review and the dedication to repeat things to get better. And so my emphasis too was asking them like what they needed clarity on. And what they needed clarity on was still a lot of the LTAP. Was still a lot of the assessment, not only like the assessments themselves, hand placement, fine tuning their touch, but also assessment, critical thinking, and interpretation. And realizing too how those things are linked. Because if you don't have clarity on what you're trying to get out of the assessment, then you will have a harder time interpreting things and troubleshooting when something when something is off. And so I talk about this a lot of like, when you're learning these assessments, sometimes you're quick to either be like, this doesn't work, or this is stupid, or I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing, as opposed to being curious and being like, well, why does this not feel clear? And that is like a main question when you run into not a dead end, but when you run into like an obstacle. I'm trying to get people in the habit of asking the question, why is this not clear, and how can I make it more clear? Or even, is this clear? And if it's not clear, then the next questions are like, how can I set up the situation to provide me more clarity? And this has informed all of my teaching now, even of the beginners in the missing link, is like, hey, I've taught this enough times now that I see the obstacles people face. I see how people go wrong in the assessments, and I'm trying to shorten your learning curve. So there's some people that were in my mentorship program that have literally been with me since the beginning of Movement Rev education. And they're some of the ones that are still like seeking more clarity than others sometimes. And that is because when I first taught them, I didn't teach it clearly because I didn't have the clarity. What has provided me more clarity on each assessment, what has provided me more clarity on critical thinking and troubleshooting the locator test assessment protocol, and like ultimately like testing its, I hate the word reliability, but testing its reliability and validity and doing what I think it's doing, which is taking this concept of osteopathic general listening and providing a more concrete way to come at that result of where the body's protecting. I have just, I've just seen that the more I teach it, the more I repeat myself, the more I have to answer the same question in a different way for different practitioners, the more clear everything gets. And with clarity comes confidence and better results. And so, it is funny to me too, because when you look at sort of like anything, I already gave you the example of how my athletes and my Navy SEAL candidates, like how this comes up in their work. And with my teaching, I was trying to think about like how many times I've taught the LTAP now. And I'm like, I've taught it online. I've taught it 14 times, 14 rounds. In person, I have taught it now 18 times. And so I'm like, what's 18 and 14? What's that math? 8 and 4 is 12 plus 20. 32 times. I've taught it now 32 times. And I'm like, yeah, it's much more clear. I was watching a video that somebody posted in the Facebook group for the missing link of them doing the March test, and I could tell them very confidently exactly what they were doing wrong, and I could see the result, even though I didn't have a great angle, and they couldn't see it very well, but I could see it because I've been doing this for so many times, right? And so it's like, I probably wouldn't have been able to. Even 5 rounds ago, I probably would have told them that I needed a better angle on the video. But it just goes to show you that it's the repetition and review that makes all the difference. And when we were talking business as well, this weekend, I was just sharing how I think that has like been the gift of social media, really, is like back when I started sharing my thoughts on my methodology, my approach, and my, just all my thoughts. Like I was kind of sharing just everything. Back starting in 2017, it is the repetition of doing that, of putting yourself out there, of putting your thoughts out there, that actually helps to mold them. And that actually helps to not only mold your thoughts and your methodology and figure out who you are and who you are as a practitioner and what makes you unique and what you want to share with the world. And like helps you find your voice. Like it's not one specific journal prompt, or it's not doing anything but like doing it over and over again and refining it over and over again. And I shared with them, I was like, the funny thing is so many people are resistant to share on social media or on a blog or something like that because they're afraid of being an imposter, or they're afraid of what people may think of them. And I'm like, people are not paying attention. And the beauty of like starting from scratch is you also have no followers, so literally no one is listening. And so I'm like, it should just like make the stakes lower. But I'll also tell you, as someone that has over 20,000 followers, people are still not listening. The amount of times I have to repeat myself on like basic things of like, will there be a recording, is infuriating. Or answer a question that's literally posted in writing multiple places where they're asking the question. And I'm like, what? Can you read? Are you paying attention? Like, knock on the screen. Is this thing on? So it just is continuing to highlight that repetition and review is like so important. And yet in this industry, we're so quick to, instead of have repetition and review, just to move on to the next best thing, the next best treatment, the next best exercise, the next best supplement, the next best modality, like the next best injection, the next best whatever, as opposed to repeating and refining things enough to like truly understand them at a deeper level, so that when something is not clear, you can stop yourself and be like, oh, it's not clear. That doesn't mean it's not working. It doesn't mean I'm dumb. It doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing. It doesn't mean that the patient, something's wrong with them. It means, like, what does it mean? First step usually means, how can I adjust this so I get more clear information? And when you have done it over and over again, you pick up patterns and you are like, oh, I know what I need to do differently. And it's also fundamentally this repetition and review process is also like baked in this core value of curiosity. This core value of not having to be right and not having to be the expert, of like being the scientist, putting your scientist hat on and being curious about the world and curious about the patient in front of you, curious about how a certain treatment changes the assessment, or how an assessment changes your treatment, or how, like, just how things change, and realizing that there's not a right and a wrong and a black and white, which is ironic because a lot of times when we are trying to find clarity in our assessment, the more binary we can get with understanding what we're trying to get out of our assessment, the clearer it gets. But yet we can't be in the binary when we're trying to have this curiosity about getting really good at assessment and treatment. So it is interesting how there is so much connection between all of this, and how it all also, like, is a red thread of any profession in any endeavor that you're trying to get better at. And I think a lot of people in general are just quick to, like, quit and move on to the next thing if it's hard. And anything worth doing, I think, oftentimes has a little bit of difficulty at first because you're new to it. People aren't good at things they're new at. Even people who are good at things when they first learn them, they're not as good as they could be. They still need to work on it. So that's it. That's the episode today. Is just this idea of, like, how important repetition and review is, and, like, also, like, give yourself a break. It takes a long time to get really good at something. And I mean, this is, to go back and plug the LTAP Level 1 online course. This is actually one of the things I love about online learning, is that you can go and repeat the course over and over and over again as many times as you need to help you find clarity. And you can listen to a lecture from me more than once and hear completely different things. Even the same video, definitely the same lecture in different days, because I say the different thing every time. But even the same recording, you listen to it again and you have a new perspective, because we are, we're kind of like, that can be kind of like a circle, but it's really a spiral. Every time we come back to it, we're on a different level. So we get a different perspective, a different layer to it. And so this is why repetition is important, because as we're circling back, we're actually spiraling. And I was talking to this concept of the spiral to a friend of mine the other day, and he was like, well, hopefully upwards, not spiraling down. And I was like, yes, absolutely upwards. So, but yeah, repetition, because each day you're someone different and you have different past experiences, you have different patterns, different information in your hands. And so, it's always new. So that is actually what I love, the online experience of education, because it affords you repeatability, repetition, and refinement with less effort in terms of cost of traveling, cost of repeating courses. Like, it's included lifetime access for free. So, and then too, like, even too, with the access to the alumni Facebook group that comes with it, is like, that is opportunity for review and coaching for life. And just like the people who came to the Revitalized Mentorship weekend, like, they're clarifying, they're repeating things, getting this repetition and refinement and review so that they can get better and clearer and just feel more fulfilled and successful with what they're doing. So anyways, I'll wrap it up. Thanks for being here. Let me know if you have any questions about the course, and I'll see you next time.